Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon for some. What's going on, everybody? It's Boxingwave. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button for me real quick. I'm going to wait for a few more people to join us before we start going. Talking about Anthony Joshua, Robert Helenius today, and a few other things. Not going to be a long live today. All right. Charles Edward Cheese, what's up with you, man? I see you here. I see you here. My man, my guy right here. This is my man right here. Shout out to you, Charles. What's up, Thomas? What's good with you, man? Good morning. All right, let's go get a few more people in here. And then we can start talking about some boxing. It's kind of warm in here. Let me turn on the air. Oh man. All right, what's up, everyone in the chat? Yo, Charles, thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know what I mean. Thank you for really, really, coming through for the kid, man. But thank you for the donation, man. What's up, Keith? What's up, Roders? Maisha, what's up? Mad Christ, what's good with you? Mad Christ, that's a good question. I don't even know. I didn't even check that. I wouldn't think that they would make it a pay-per-view. I didn't even check. You know what? Let me check, man. I mean, was the Dillian White fight a pay-per-view? I don't think it is a pay-per-view. Okay, no, it's not a pay-per-view. It better not be a pay-per-view. You can't charge us for that. I mean, we've seen worse, but yeah, it's on regular dazn. Thank God. Thank God. Was Dillian White Anthony Joshua rematch a pay-per-view? I didn't even know. I don't even know if it was or not. That probably was a pay-per-view, even though it's not a fight that I really cared for. To be honest, man, from what I'm seeing and just the reaction to the whole Dillian White situation, there was never really, I mean, I don't know, maybe in the UK there was. So let me just say that. I know here in America, no one really cared, even for the people that, I mean, the boxing fans, no one really cared here in the States about that fight, so, but this Robert Helenius, this Dillian White situation with him, failing the drug test and the fight being canceled, it's having everyone talk about it. You know what I mean? And I think the talk of who was going to be the opponent has made more hype surrounding this fight than the Dillian White fight, at least on this side. I can't speak for the British fans. I don't know because I'm not there. But I mean, I was actually expecting a fight like this. I knew it was going to be Helenius or Gerald Washington. You know what I mean? I knew it was going to be someone on this level. Helenius actually fought like 3 days ago, which is crazy. All right. He scored a knockout in the third round. I did watch the clip of that fight, and it happened to be in some sort of like castle or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't have an issue with Robert Helenius, man. I really don't. I didn't have an issue with Deontay Wilder fought him last year. When Wilder fought him last year, I did a full breakdown as if it was a normal fight, simply because Wilder was coming off the 2 knockout losses to Tyson Fury, and I wasn't expecting much as for the next opponent. You know what I mean? So honestly, with this fight here, this is a last minute replacement and this is not like a month in advance replacement. This is a very last minute replacement. You know what I mean? I mean, there's only the only thing we can really talk about is Anthony Joshua cannot lose this fight. We already seen what happened when he lost before, the first time he lost. You know, Andy Ruiz was a replacement, but it was a lot more time. There was a lot of issues out of the ring surrounding and leading up to the fight. All the rumors of AJ getting knocked out, having a concussion. And it was Joshua's first fight in America. You know what I mean? So that fight there, you know, this fight here, I mean, I'm not expecting much. Andy Ruiz is much more talented than Robert Helenius, always was. Robert is tough. He's a big man. He's a tough dude. You know, he has some solid wins, but it's not much that we can really expect from him. You know what I mean? It's just a tune-up fight before the big fight. And I'm not expecting AJ to stop him as early as Wilder did, but I'm expecting AJ to stop him within a few rounds. You know, it should be within a few rounds. All right. What's up, everyone that's joining? What's up, Craig, Mark, David, Ralph? Was good with you? Ralph says Helenius might ice AJ. Well, he definitely has a puncher's chance. But you got to remember, you know, a lot of these guys pretty much have a puncher's chance going in there with AJ. Just about all of them do. You know what I mean? And Helenius is a puncher. He's a bigger puncher than Jermaine Franklin. He is. He's a bigger puncher than Alexander Usyk. I think he's maybe around the level of Kubrat Pulev as far as punching power. You know, Andy Ruiz was a puncher. Povetkin was a monster's puncher. And Povetkin didn't get him out of there. You know what I mean? Joseph Parker was a puncher. Klitschko was obviously a puncher, huge puncher. I mean, Joshua was able to survive all these guys. So, I mean, I just think that Joshua is just going to be fine. You know, Helenius is he's a puncher. You know, he's kind of skilled. But I'm not expecting much from him. You know, I just don't think it's going to happen as soon as the Wilder fight. You know what I mean? Craig said he was really hoping they elevated Hrgovic up the card to face Joshua. Would pay for pay-per-view for that. I wasn't expecting that. Not in a week's notice. I think Hrgovic is a fighter that you actually train for, prepare for, have camp for. I don't think he's a last-minute replacement type of opponent. If AJ took that, then that would have been very respectable from him to do, but have been very dangerous, especially if you're about to go into one of the most demanded heavyweight fights between Joshua and Wilder that's supposed to be coming up in December. If those two are going to fight each other, you're not going to put Hrgovic in there with AJ because that's too much of a threat, and you don't want to ruin that fight. You know what I mean? So, like I said in the previous video I did talking about this, I wasn't expecting much of an opponent. I seen Andy Ruiz did a call out for a third fight. People were saying that. I seen Hrgovic's name come up. I see Martin McCauley name come up. I seen a lot of fighters' names came up, but they're not realistic to me if you are heading to a Deontay Wilder fight. You know what I mean? Especially for a last-minute opponent, a replacement. You know, if it was signed and it was agreed on earlier, then I would have said, okay, yeah, he could fight Hrgovic. You know, he could fight maybe Andy Ruiz. You know what I mean? Because he's fighting Dillian White. So, I mean, you could fight all these other guys, you know, and Wilder might still possibly fight Andy Ruiz, but I don't know what's going on with that because I'm starting to feel like that fight is not going to happen, you know. But, yeah. Helenius was chosen for the lead up to Wilder. Charles says he really wanted Andy, though. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting it, just like I just said. you know. Beast, I don't know why you're not getting notifications, man. Maybe it's because of the time I'm putting it up. Like I made a notification like almost an hour ago. So I mean, I set the video for almost over an hour ago. Um, Roder says Otto Wallin would have been good. Again, again, I think Helenius is a step down from all of the people you guys just named. You know what I mean? All of these guys, even Otto Wallin is, I feel, is more dangerous than Helenius. Not as big as a puncher, but more skilled to me than Robert Helenius. And Helenius got to be what, 40 at this point? Because I know he was older than Wilder when they fought. All right, he's 39. All right, he's 39. But let's talk about it, man. I am covering the card. I will be covering the card. I don't know if I'm covering the entire card, because normally when I cover two cards in a day, two or more cards in a day, normally I'll start the first card a little bit further into the whole, the card itself, maybe a fight or two before the main event, and then I'll log on, and then I'll come back later, because I'm gonna be covering the Oscar Valdez fight, which I think is going to be the best fight in the weekend. You know what I mean? So I'm going to be on twice on Saturday, but I will be here for this fight. All right, but I don't know how early. I might get on a little early, or I might wait until like maybe a card or a fight or two before the actual main event. I mean, again, I see Exponer says AJ is chinny. I can see Robert winning. AJ has been chinny his whole career. I've heard that his whole career. So everyone has a puncher's chance against Anthony Joshua. Joshua has fought more talented, bigger punchers. So I'm not saying that Helenius doesn't have a shot. I just don't think he has any more of a shot than anybody else that's fought AJ. You know what I mean? I think AJ has consistently fought better fighters than Helenius. Helenius is good, but I don't think he's any more dangerous than what we've seen. And Helenius is defensively flawed. Let's be honest. He's also chinny. He's even more chinny. Okay. And he's got knocked out by like Gerald Washington. You know what I mean? He's even more chinny, and he's very defensively flawed. And he's almost 40. You know what I mean? I know he won his most recent fight. He had a tune-up recently, a few days ago. Wilder knocked him out in the first round, which is not saying too much, because Wilder has knocked out a lot of guys in the first round, and especially with a guy that he's familiar in fighting. But Helenius is he has defensive flaws, and I mean by his leaning. He fights out of a high guard, and he likes to rely on leaning backwards all the time. He always keeps his head on the line, and that's going to be a problem for AJ, who has a great 1-2. You know what I mean? He has a good jab, and he likes to throw right hands right down the middle, especially with guys with high guards. You know what I mean? So he's going to connect at some point, and he's going to probably stop Helenius. I don't know if it's going to be a one-shot punch, but I can see AJ throwing hooks around the guard and then following it up with a right hand, and I think that's going to be the punch that knocks out Rob Helenius. You know what I mean? I said before the Wilder fight that he has to be careful of a short right hand from Wilder, similar to the short right hand that Wilder landed against Gerald Washington years ago. And it was the short right hand in between the punches that Wilder connected. Or I think Helenius like kind of leaned in, because I think he was going to throw a punch, and Wilder just timed him with the short right hand as he was coming in and knocked him out cold. I see Joshua landing a right hand behind the jab, or a right hand behind the left hook, and knocking Helenius down and hurting him. And I don't know if he's going to keep him down, but I think that's going to be either the knockout, or it's going to be the punch that's going to lead to the knockout. You know what I mean? AJ does not have one-shot punch power on a level of Deontay Wilder. but he's a pretty good finisher. You know what I mean? So I think AJ will beat him early, um, but maybe not as early as Wilder did. I think Wilder did it so quickly. I'm expecting AJ to do it after a couple of rounds, you know? So that's my opinion on the fight. What's up, Prime Politics? Craig says, agree on Waleem, but with him being a southpaw, it would have been a difficult switch for AJ after preparing for Orthodox. Yeah, it just didn't make sense. You know, uh, I thought Waleem would have been a good fight leading up to Usyk. You know what I mean? But at this point, nah, I think at this point, Waleem is, you know, it sucks for him because he was supposed to fight Dillian White at some point, you know, and he's just probably not going to get another big shot like that because he's not an easy fighter. You know, I mean, we've seen what he did to Dominic Brazil. We've seen what he did against Tyson Fury, you know what I mean? Which is kind of put him on the map. A lot of fighters are not going to be willing to face him. You know what I mean? He's going to give a lot of, like, I can see him giving, like, a guy like F.A. Jagba, like someone like him, some trouble. You know what I mean? Because of his style. Now guys are not going to be lining up to face him, especially if they're not like, you know, he's a southpaw that's very tricky. You know what I mean? Low Blow says, let's see if Robert dives face first into an AJ punch. I don't think so. I think he leans back and gets caught. I think he leans back. I think he's going to lean away and get caught with right hand. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to lean in and get caught by a short shot. I think he might lean in and get caught by an uppercut, though, from AJ. That's very possible. Similar to the Dillian White uppercut. That uppercut is what AJ will catch him with if it's not by the right hand, following up by the jab. I think it's going to be the uppercut as Helenius kind of lunges in. It says, Mark says, it'd be nice to see AJ get a stoppage. It's been about 4 years. Yeah, I think the last guy he fought and stopped was Pulev. All right. And that fight has it been 4 years? I don't think it's been 4 years, but he went the distance with Franklin. He lost twice to Usyk, and he stopped Pulev in 2020. So it's almost been 3 years, you know. It's almost been 20. It was December 2020. He stopped him, but yeah, he didn't stop. You know, obviously he didn't stop Andy Ruiz. It's been Povetkin was the last guy he stopped before Pulev. All right. So he's had a tough road since Povetkin. You know what I mean? Because it was so much transition after that Andy Ruiz loss, the first one. You know, he was able to come back and win the rematch, but he fought a very safe fight. Right? I like the Pulev fight. I did like that fight. You know, I like he showed a little aggressiveness in that fight. And I believe he came in heavier that fight. Let me check. Yeah, a little heavier. But the Usyk fight, the first fight, not a good performance. You know, try to box with the better boxer. And, you know, I only gave him 3 rounds. And in the Usyk rematch, he was more aggressive. He was better in the rematch, but it wasn't good enough. You know, and he still lost. But and then Jermaine Franklin was like, not a great performance. You know, I know he's with Derek James now and doing that transition, you know, trying to learn, I don't know, trying to work whatever he's learned from him. But I wasn't impressed with the Jermaine Franklin. I think most people were not really impressed with him. I think, especially in the first half, I think it was just, you know what? I haven't gone back and watched the fight, but I remember it was just so inconsistent. It was like one round AJ would look like himself, and then it was another round where AJ just looked off. It was just like back and forth. That's what I remember from that fight. I have not gone back and watched it since, though. You know what I mean? Beast asks, who do I have winning between AJ and Wilder? I've been back and forth with this over the years, but in the most recent years, I want to say in the last 3 years, I want to say I've had Wilder winning the fight. You know, I think Wilder right now would win. Unless there's something in this fight that I see different, some development in AJ in this fight here, I don't know. I mean, it's still Robert Helenius. It might not even change. If I had to pick a winner, if I had to put money on someone, I would put my money on Wilder. I would put more money on Wilder right now, you know. And it has nothing to do with favoritism, who I'm a fan of more. I'm just saying, as far as who I think is going to win the fight, without being emotional about it, because I'm more of an AJ fan. You guys know that. But I would pick Wilder to win if they were to actually fight right now. Even with his losses, I've been more impressed with Wilder in the most recent years. I feel like since the Ruiz first fight, I felt like AJ kind of peaked. I haven't seen a better version of him. I've seen a different version of him, and I've seen him him fight different ways, but I haven't seen him improve since the first Andy Ruiz fight. When I saw him fight Povetkin, I saw AJ make adjustments. I felt like he was still improving at that point. But the Ruiz fight, I don't feel like he's improved. I felt like he's been stagnant since then. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't know if he could beat Wilder right now. Because Wilder, even with those losses to Fury, he fought a hell of a fight. In all three of those fights, well, the second fight was crazy, you already know, but the third fight and the first fight, he did well. You know what I mean? Camacho says, what does AJ gain from this fight? He will always be upstaged by Wilder. I wouldn't say he's upstaged by Wilder. You know what I mean? Because people like the two of them for different reasons, and they're both stars in their own way. Like AJ's always been a bigger star and has made more money than Wilder when it comes to boxing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not in America, but outside of America, not just the British, he's been bigger. Now as far as common opponents, not always. I think they had Brazil. Wilder knocked Brazil out earlier. Molina, Joshua definitely did better against Carlos. Is it Carlos Molina or Eric Molina? Eric Molina. There's a few common opponents that they have. All right, but there are a lot of fighters that neither one of them face. Wilder didn't fight Klitschko. He didn't fight Parker. He didn't fight Povetkin. He didn't fight Ruiz yet. I mean, he didn't fight Usyk. Wilder didn't fight a lot of these guys. He fought Ortiz. Let's be real. He fought Ortiz and Fury. So even if Joshua knocks him out a few rounds later, it won't really matter until they fight each other. And that's my point. You know what I'm saying? They got to fight each other. They got to see each other at this point. And they will in December, unless Joshua fumbles this fight some way, somehow. You know what I mean? I don't think that's going to happen, though. What do I think Wilder and AJ can do pay-per-view wise? I don't know. I can't call UK numbers because I don't follow UK pay-per-view numbers. I don't. But for American numbers, I don't think it does more than Fury and Wilder. You know what I mean? So I'm guessing around in America, maybe like the 500,000, 400K range. I think Wilder losing to Fury, I think he lost a lot of steam. I think people were into those fights, but you know, not really been being around like that. Having that one fight, Helenius, where it did very poor pay-per-view numbers. I don't think there's going to be as interest in the AJ fight. AJ is just not the talker. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to sell a fight like that. You know what I mean? There's no real. I know there's no real animosity. And I think at the end of the day, when they finally do decide to fight each other and they have that first face off, I think it's gonna have that Spence Bud feel where they both gonna kind of respect each other. I don't think it's gonna be like Fury and Wilder where they were able to sell that fight. You know what I mean? Rhoda says Wilder needs a fight before he faces AJ in December. I do agree with that, and that's something that I thought about because I don't know what's going on with the Andy Ruiz fight. I'm just the fact that Ruiz was even calling out AJ. It makes me feel like, all right, are they even getting anywhere with those negotiations? Like, what's going on with that fight? Yo, Jims, what's up? What's good, Ryan? What's good with you, bro? Make sure you guys follow my man, Boxing Jims. I'm sure y'all all follow him already, but yeah. David says AJ has a better resume than Wilder. I agree. All right. I agree that AJ on paper has a better resume. He has consistently fought top guys. Consistently fought. I think Wilder has the better KO ratio. Yes, he looks better because he's knocking out easier fighters. Again, outside of Ortiz, outside of Fury, there's not really much depth in Wilder's resume. I think everybody is a huge gap between Ortiz. You have Fury, you have Ortiz, and there's a huge gap of in between everybody else that's underneath Ortiz. Whereas I feel like Joshua has consistently fought like top guys. You know what I'm saying? I hope Wilder Ace. I hope Wilder. What's up, Kev? What's good with you, bro? He said Wilder has the better chin by far. It's going to stink because it's not going to be in America, so the numbers might be lower. Yeah, it's not going to be it's not going to be that great. It's not going to be that great. As far as a chin thing, Wilder's been hurt, man, throughout his career. You know, he's been knocked down before, you know, in a video in a fight that we didn't see by a journeyman. He was hurt by Eric Molina. You know, he was hurt by Luis Ortiz, who's a puncher. He was hurt by Tyson Fury, obviously. You know what I mean? It's not like he hasn't been hurt. It's just that AJ's been hurt by White. He's been hurt by Klitschko. He's been hurt by Povetkin. I wouldn't say hurt. It's just I think Povetkin like broke his nose or something, but you know, it didn't change the pace of the fight. He's been hurt by Andy Ruiz, obviously. And Usyk rocked him a few times. You know, I mean, Usyk, Ruiz, Klitschko, White. Yeah, I mean, I would probably give Wilder the better chin. Let me say this. I think Wilder probably has the better chin. I think AJ's reaction to getting hit is worse than Wilder's. Let me say that. And I don't even mean about being hurt. I feel like when AJ gets hit with a good shot, he has to like reset himself. Like, you know, he like kind of clams up and like, I don't think he likes getting hit. You know, I think AJ wants to be like a slip fighter. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, Takam did break his nose as well. Yeah, I think when AJ get hit, he like kind of clams up, and it might not even be about a hard shot. You know what I mean? Coyote, what's up, bro? He says, do you think in spite of AJ's performance against Jermaine Franklin, he showed improvements under DJ in that fight? I can't say that. You know, I was saying this earlier. I really honestly can't say that. I didn't see any improvements. You know, I was actually more impressed with his rematch against Usyk. You know, yo, guys, give me 1 second, man. I made a pot of coffee and I smell it, and I'm sitting here talking to you. But let me get this coffee. I'll be right back. All right. All right, I'm back. Hold on. Sorry about that. All right. What was I saying? I wasn't really all impressed with the fight with Franklin. You know, I thought it was okay. Like he did what he had to do. I don't know what the game plan was going into the fight. I don't feel like AJ went into that fight wanting to destroy him. You know what I mean? So I personally didn't really care for it like that. You know what I mean? Um, Yeah, but that's Helenius. He said it says Helenius is getting paid taking this AJ fight and just coming fighting Wilder, bro. Might retire after this fight. Yeah, absolutely. He's gonna get paid. Good for him. But this is why you got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You know what I mean? If I think if Gerald Washington wasn't part of AJ's camp and training and prepping for White, um, I think Gerald Washington probably would have been you want a guy that's tall, an orthodox fighter, a guy with a good right hand. You want to fight someone like that before fighting Deontay Wilder in December. You know what I mean? Um, Boxer Jim says jab looked cool, but that step around game was in its infancy. Yeah, he also said the footwork was off, too many wasted steps. Yeah, I just wasn't impressed with that fight. You know, I just I gotta wait and see. I was actually hoping. I mean, honestly, I wasn't expecting much from Dillian White. At this point, Dillian White has not looked impressive since the Oscar Rivas fight. Not to me. I know he destroyed Povetkin in the rematch, but he went in there and just ran after him. And Povetkin, he's an old man. He just had COVID, bro. Like, that was it. Povetkin was getting beat up in the first fight with White. I mean, White just, he always leans forward and ducks forward when he does that thing. And Povetkin capitalized off that shit, knocked him out. David says, I hope to see the old AJ in this fight. Yo, you know what? You know what's crazy? I love the Charles Martin fight, like you just said. I love the Dominic Brazil fight. Charles Martin, Dominic Brazil. Those are the fights where I think he looked very impressive. Povetkin. Those are the fights where I felt like, all right, you know what? I thought AJ at this point would have a chance against Wilder. But now we're starting to sound like Adrian Broner fans. Like, I hope the old AB, I hope a focused AB come. That's how we felt for the last decade about AB. I think Joshua, being with Derek James, I'm still unsure whether or not this is a good move. Now, I wanted him to stay with Robert Garcia. You know, I know he lost to Usyk, but I wanted him to stay with Robert Garcia. I liked the approach he took. I just didn't think it was enough. He just lost to the better boxer. You know what I mean? I personally wanted him to stay there. But I like Derrick James too. I just don't know if Derrick James is right for AJ. I mean, right now, Derrick James is catching a lot. And this is what happens. Derrick James is getting a lot of heat towards his way right now because you got to look. And I brought this up recently. You got to look. We saw what happened to EJ right in his last fight, right? A couple weeks ago, we saw zero improvements with EJ. Everything that we knew about him, we got in that fight against Bud, and nothing worked. I mean, even some of the, where there was some videos of Derrick James training Spence, and there was a video that was floating around on social media that was showing, like, I think EJ was hitting the mitts, and the way Derrick James threw the hook, and EJ didn't even have his glove on. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, yeah. People were like, yeah, Bud's going to knock him out. Look, he's not improving on anything. You know what I'm saying? So he's taking a lot of heat for that. He's taking a lot of heat for the Frank Martin fight as well, because Frank didn't look good in his very last fight. And honestly, I'm starting to get a little concerned simply because Derrick James is taking a lot of new clients. He has AJ now over there, and now he has Ryan Garcia over there. So they taking all of these pictures together, and like they all making it look like they're all together, and it looks cool. It looks great. But one thing that Frank, when it was just Frank, Mel, because Mel got a fight now with Canelo, Frank, Mel, and EJ. When it was those three, the one thing they said is that they love Derrick James because they are with him all the time. It's more of an intimate thing. It's not like a typical coach-fighter relationship. You know what I'm saying? Where the coach is just, they hire, they go into camp. No, those guys it's more of an intimate relationship that those fighters have with Derrick James because it was just those three. What's up, Dion? What's up? I see you. It was just those three before. Now it's looking like it's a lot of fighters in that camp. And look at just like now. You had EJ, Frank, Joshua, Charlo, Ryan Garcia is coming on a bounce back. He got a lot of people over there to deal with right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I'm just saying that Franklin fight didn't make me feel like he's improved. Not based off that performance. It wasn't a bad performance, but I didn't get anything new from AJ. And it might not even be the trainer at this point. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring up that I've said before. At this point, it may not be the trainer. It may be the fighter. It may be the fighter. Maybe someone said he has PTSD. A lot of people have said he's not been the same since the Andy Ruiz loss. A lot of people feel that way. We've seen adjustments in what he could do in the ring, but maybe mentally AJ is not all the way there. And we saw signs of that after he lost to Usyk in a rematch. You know what I mean? The way he was wilding out in the ring like that. Oh, shout out to Showbiz, by the way. Got my little Showbiz mug. Yeah, so we just gotta see. We gotta see. What else is it? Jim says DJ doesn't seem to want to teach head movement or feints. No, nah. There's no head movement with Frank. Frank blocks. Frank's defense is his legs and his gloves. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but Frank's as athletic as he is, like you of all people know, Frank's defense is his gloves. You know what I'm saying? But his head, there's no head movement there, and there's not really many feints here. You know what I mean? He's just extremely athletic, fast, explosive. But yeah, same with Spence. Spence has always been that way. Jamel's never had great head movement neither. I haven't even thought about that. Because the thing with Mel, these guys have all done adjustments, had adjustments in their careers, you know. Oh, not all, but Mel did. But for certain fighters like Tony Harrison, it didn't really work out for him. Even in the rematch where I know he stopped Harrison, but there was a good period of that fight where Harrison was up. You know, Harrison tends to slow down late though, you know, and get sloppy, gets caught. But Harrison was up and Mel was still getting caught because Mel was just coming forward, being overly aggressive. I think he was fighting emotionally. I think he was so pissed off that Tony Harrison was talking so much shit that he wanted to knock him out and he was fighting recklessly. Similar to the Castano. Now in the rematch with Castano, he stepped it up. That was the best Charlo we've seen. And we did see some feints there. But the head movement has never been a good thing. You know what I mean? And AJ has had good head movement, solid head movement in other fights, in previous fights with previous coaches. I'm not sure if he's going to improve on that being there. I mean, he has solid head movement, not good head movement, but solid. I don't know if he's improving that while being with Derrick James. You know what I'm saying? I think probably the reason why he went to Derrick James was probably to be as aggressive as he once was. You know what I mean? Masked Man says AJ is still good. He just couldn't beat Usyk. Well, he is still good without a doubt. My thing is he going to be able to improve? You know what I mean? And has he been better since that first loss? That's the thing. That's the debate that everyone has. Prime says, do you think Floyd could come out of retirement to fight a current big-time welterweight like Crawford? No. Now, he could do exhibitions, but no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, I think Floyd is doing the exhibition thing. Him, Manny, nah, you know. I think he could do maybe do an exhibition with Adrian Bruner at the very most, you know, but I can't see him fighting any top tier current welterweights. There'll be no point in doing it. You know what I mean? Because there'll be risk involved in very low reward. You're not gonna get much, you know, unless it would be a Bud Crawford. There's gonna be too much risk in that, and Floyd is not doing that, man. It's just Floyd is fighting Gotti for a rematch. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know that fight was happening until there was a brawl. Masked Man says it's nothing new. Fight fans always change up when their fighters lose, especially on trainers like Derrick James, for instance. He was supposed to be the best in the game. Now watch that Mel lose. Now watch when Mel loses to Canelo. Yeah, I don't know how long ago you typed that, but you just heard my whole thing about Derrick James. He's catching a lot of heat. You know what I mean? And let's say if AJ, I don't think AJ is going to lose Saturday. I don't think there's any version that will lose of AJ that will lose to Helenius, especially at this point. But if Jamel is to lose to Canelo, he's probably going to even get more heat from it. You know, you go for training in the year from maybe the last year or two to having, you know, Spence get demolished, you know, Frank Martin not looking as good as his previous wins. You know, Jamel losing, you know, to Canelo. Doesn't even matter that it's Canelo. It's going to be the loss. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I hear you. It's never going to change. And not just, that's with fighters and trainers. You know what I mean? But the thing with trainers, though, I think most of these trainers are experts in specific strengths. You know what I'm saying? They don't fit and match well for everybody. So you got to find that nice blend to, I don't think there's a trainer that goes well with everyone. You know what I mean? You just got to find the right trainer for you, you know? And that's why there's some fighters that switch trainers all of the time, you know? And there's trainers, there's fighters that like to stick with one, but um it is what it is, man. It's part of the game, man. People are gonna complain, especially us boxing fans. We complain more than anything. Teach. Do I like the matchup? No. I think it's necessary under the circumstances. Do I like it? No, not really. I didn't like it when Wilder fought him either, but I understood the assignment. The assignment was Wilder was coming off 2 knockout wins, and he needed an opponent. He needed a get back fight. So with that being said, I understood, and I wasn't mad at it. But as far as like, do I like the matchup? No, but it was expected. Helenius, Gerald Washington, someone like that was expected for me, especially under the, the time period. This is like a little over a week of when this fight got canceled with White. So Black Cat, what's up? Joshua has problems with shorter guys. No problem with Helenius, the ideal opponent. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. That's always been a thing too. It's always been a thing. Good point. All right, so I think Helenius, I said this last year with Wilder and Helenius. I did a breakdown last year. And I remember saying, like, look, whenever we have these fights like this, all I'm going to do is do a breakdown. I'm not doing a breakdown of this fight. This is my breakdown right here, right now. Helenius, just like Wilder fight, look, go in there. Don't you go in there with the intentions of knocking out AJ. Jump on him. You know what I'm saying? Let's believe that you're shaky. Let's believe that Wilder or Joshua is shaky. Let's just assume that he is. Let's go in there and you got to get at him. Like Wilder was coming, like I said, Wilder's coming off 2 knockout wins. You go in there and be physical early. Don't let him sit around and get comfortable and get used to you. Don't let the rounds go by, because Helenius is 39 years old and he doesn't get better as the rounds go. He gets worse, especially defensively. You know what I mean? Defensively, awful. All right. Not worse than, not worse than like Joe Joyce, but defensively, he's not good. So with that being said, go in there, be aggressive early. You know what I mean? He's a decent counter puncher. All right. But you want to come in and be physical. As dangerous as that is with AJ, you got to be physical very early. Don't let the rounds go. Don't box with AJ because Helenius is just too defensively flawed. He doesn't have a great chin. You know what I'm saying? He has good power. He's a good counter puncher, but he has to be aggressive early while he's still sharp and while the reflexes is still intact early on. His head movement is not good, but it's better in the earlier rounds. Once the fight goes on, he just relies solely on leaning back. He fights out of a high guard, which is not a tight high guard, man. AJ is going to be throwing punches straight down the pipe. Like I said earlier in this live, I expect AJ to throw a left hook, follow it up with the right hand, or, throw the jab and the right hand straight down the middle. Straight shots is Helenius' kryptonite, not really hooks, but straight shots down the middle and uppercuts. AJ has a phenomenal uppercut. If he can time it right, just like he did against Dillian White, Kubrat Pulev, all these other fights, Povetkin, he can get him out of there. Klitschko, we seen that classic. There's like a picture of Klitschko was, I don't even know if that picture was edited. Was that, I'm sure you all seen it. Remember the uppercut AJ landed against Klitschko and his neck is like stretched up. It looked like it's like this long. That uppercut is going to be the punch that gets him out of there. Either that or, the 1-2, something like that. All right. But Helenius, just be aggressive earlier. It's no sense of letting the rounds go by and stuff because Helenius is too old for that. And he is not, he's a replacement. You just had a fight. Go at him early. Maybe you can get AJ hurt early. Don't let AJ get used to your style as the fight goes. You know what I mean? Come straight at AJ. That's the only chance he has. I don't think he has much of a chance any regardless, but it is what it is. What do I think Helenius will suffice as a tune-up, or do you think it's possible that AJ squeezes a life opponent in around October? Nah. Whoever wins this fight, if AJ wins this, well, let me not say whoever. When AJ wins, if AJ wins, he's gonna be fighting Wilder. All right. The question is, will Wilder have a fight before December? I think he should, but I don't know if we will. All right. David, he says, if AJ looks bad in this fight, it puts the Wilder match in jeopardy. He can't afford another. No, if AJ loses the fight, he puts the fight in jeopardy. I mean, there will be no fight. But if he wins and not look good, the fight is still going down, because at the end of the day, this is not 4 or 5 years ago when these guys were both undefeated and they were both holding titles, and neither one, I say neither one, but they didn't make there was a lot more risk involved at that time. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was trying to be protected and make it work in their favor. And it didn't happen then. So this is years past now. And like I said, these guys are not holding titles. There's no titles on the line. These guys have lost already. AJ has 3 losses. Wilder has 2. They've both been knocked out. They've both been stopped. At this point, Wilder's getting up there. He's in his later 30s. AJ these guys are in the 4th quarter of their careers. They're gonna have to fight anyway, as long as AJ wins the fight. The question is, what is Wilder gonna do? Is he gonna fight Andy Ruiz, or is he gonna just fight someone else and get a fight in? It's already August. He needs to get a fight in immediately, because if they're due for December and we don't have an official fight schedule, he has to have something where he can get in the ring by late September to mid-September, the latest. I don't know what's going on with Wilder, but I'm hoping he's in training and he's already in shape and fit and kind of in camp for someone, because if he's fighting AJ in December, they need to get it going now, All right, real quick. I wanted to ask you guys, Inoue and Crawford. I'm not going to Usyk, I was going to bring him up because I'm bringing up these pound for pound guys that are undefeated. Usyk is easy to answer. We already know what the challenge is there. You know what I'm saying? It's still work that needs to be done there. I don't think it's his fault the fight with Fury didn't happen, but we already know we already know where he needs to be. You know what I'm saying? We know what his ultimate battle is. We know the finish line there. Who will be the fighter that's realistic that is going to challenge Inoue and Crawford? All right. Who is the fighter that's going to push them to their limits? I say that because I think Donaire pushed Inoue, in the first fight, but in a rematch, he made it look easy. So that's a done deal. Crawford, I still feel like he's not been forced to fight in a fight where he's losing and he was any kind of real danger yet. Unfortunately, Spence didn't bring that out. So Crawford realistically is not going above 154. He's already said it, right? I know people were talking a little bit about Canelo. People just skipped right over 160 and was talking about Canelo at 168. But he's already said that he's not going to fight Canelo. He said this weight class, he's too big. This weight class is for a reason, and that's that. That's done. Does anyone push Crawford? Is there anyone in your eyes that pushes Crawford to even fighting at his best or can possibly beat him? Same thing with Inoue. Inoue is currently at 122. He just fought the best fighter at 122. All right. Now he has the Marlon to Palace fight, and he would be undisputed. That would be undisputed. I don't think there's any other fight that needs to happen down there. Does anyone at 126 pushes an Inoue to you guys? I mean, right now, is there one opponent that you see at 126? Who do you guys feel that at 126 give them the most troubles at 126? All right. Because I don't know, these guys might be on their way to retiring undefeated. They may be. But before that happens, who are the most dangerous, or who is the most dangerous opponents for these two? I mean, if you can name 2 or 3 guys, for Crawford, it was pretty easy for me, and these are realistic fights because I'm only keeping it 140, 154 and below. I think for Crawford, the 3 names that I have in mind are Jamel Charlo, Tim Tszyu, and Jerron Boots Ennis. Those are the only 3 that I think has the best chances of being Crawford. All right. For Inoue, I'm really not sure because when I look at 126, all I'm looking at are bigger guys. I don't think any of them are more talented than him. I just know that they're bigger. So at some point, size will come into play. It does with everybody. But how far can he really go? Because if he could just dominate, go up there and 122, he already beat who most people felt was the best guy at 122, right? If he is to dominate Marlon to Palace and go up to 126, from a skill standpoint, I don't see anybody at 126 coming close to beating him. I like Robesi Ramirez. I'm a huge fan of him. He's very talented. He has power. I love that guy, right? He's probably my favorite fighter to watch at 126 by far. I do not think, as good as he is, and he's very, very good, I don't think he's anywhere near the level of Naoya Inoue from a skill standpoint, right? Stylistically, I think he may be the best for Inoue, or maybe Brandon Figueroa, because Brandon Figueroa is like one of those type of fighters that he's extremely durable, he's extremely awkward, and he's extremely high volume. I haven't seen Inoue fight anyone like him. So I think if Inoue, especially if Inoue is not able to hurt him, I think Brandon gives him a lot to think about. But outside of those 2, all of these guys are just bigger guys. Lee Wood, Luis Alberto, all good fighters. Lee Wood, Lopez, Ray Vargas, all these guys are good, but I don't see anyone talent-wise and skill-wise. I saw it in Fulton going into this fight. I don't feel that way about all of these other guys, especially after him beating Fulton. I think I would have had questions before the Fulton fight. Let me read some of your comments before I can continue. All right. B says Tink, LOL. Ralph says Inoue versus Robesi. Well, that's very realistic. That's going to happen if that's probably going to be Inoue's first fight at 126, which is crazy, right? But that fight will happen next year if Inoue beats to Palace, which I'm expecting him to. Teach says at what weight class? Well, I'm saying 126 or even 130, depending. I don't want to go too far out, but 126, maybe 130 the most. But I want to keep it at 126 for now. I don't want to jump up too far, but Beast already said Tank, and people have been talking Tank all week or since he beat Fulton. Massman says Navarrete for Inoue. For Crawford, maybe Fundora. I don't want to jump the gun and say someone at 160. I think Fundora would be pretty easy for Crawford, to be honest. Yeah, I think Fundora would be too easy. I think Jesus Reyes would be. It's better than Fundora in my opinion. Even with Fundora's just volume. It's all volume. I like Reyes' volume, power, better boxer to me. This my opinion though, but I got you. Fidel says, I believe Canelo would make a Crawford fight truly 50-50 at 160. We can only hope they might agree to catch weight or something like that. If Canelo, the only time I would love, first of all, I would love to see that fight, but the only way I would want to see that fight is if Canelo came down to 160. I think that fight would be more realistic than Jamel going to 168. Like, I would think Crawford would have a better chance of beating Canelo at 160 than Jamel has going up to 168. You know what I mean? Just because of the talent gap between Crawford and Mel. All right. Now let me just explain my three for Crawford. The reason why I say Crawford and Mel, I've said this before, and I've said this even before the Spence fight, way before the Spence fight. The reason why I thought that Mel would be more dangerous to Spence is because, and I know people rely on these sparring rumors. Mel's always said that Spence pushes him, and, and all of that in sparring and stuff like that. I get it. I never thought Spence's style was really well for Crawford. I'm not saying that Charlo's is neither, but Charlo is extremely athletic and he's extremely powerful. You know what I mean? And I don't think from a round by round points basis, I don't think he's on Bud's level. But he doesn't have to be if he can just land one shot and hurt. I think he's capable of really hurting Bud. You know what I mean? Spence, I felt like his power is more damaging throughout the rounds. He punishes you slowly. Mel knocks you out. You know what I'm saying? It's just different levels here. You know what I mean? Tank knocks you out. Wilder knocks you out. Crawford knocks you out. Inoue knocks you out. There's a difference between guys with a lot of KOs and guys that knock you out. You know what I mean? Stoppages and stuff wear you down. I don't feel like Spence is up as nearly as powerful as Jermell Charlo. I think Jermell Charlo is extremely powerful. All right. He's a huge puncher. And if Crawford is not careful, defensively good, but I think Jermell would be more dangerous because he's a knockout artist. Erickson Lubin, Tony Harrison, Brian Castano. Guy hurts. The guy hurts. He's not the most technically sound. He doesn't have the greatest fundamentals. Jermell has defensive issues. I get it. The setup sometimes is not off. He doesn't make as good of a use of his jab as he should. I get it. But he's not as predictable as Spence was, which makes him more dangerous. Same thing with Tim Tszyu, but differently. Tim Tszyu is very explosive. He's powerful as well. I don't think he has a knockout power or as Jermell, but he's close to it. He's right there with power. He's very explosive. You know what I mean? And he's a very good counterpuncher. You know what I mean? I really wanted to see the fight with him and Jermell. I still think Tim Tszyu and Jamel are more dangerous for Bud than Spence was. I think those guys hit harder. They're bigger, okay? And they're not as predictable. They have they have more in their bag. I'm not saying they're better because I don't know if Errol, all these sparring rumors, Errol might have beaten Jamel if they were to actually fight each other. He might beat Jamel because his style matches up well with Jamel. But it doesn't necessarily mean that those guys are not more dangerous for Bud than Errol. And then you have Boots Ennis, who is his style matches up. They have more similarities. You know what I mean? I think fundamentally, I think Bud is better. Experience, Bud is better. Resume, all of that stuff, Bud is better. You know what I mean? To me, than Boots. I think Boots is extremely athletic, probably more athletic than Bud, but I don't think he's more fundamentally sound than Bud. You know what I mean? Again, and he doesn't have the experience either. I haven't seen Boots and at that level to say that he can beat Crawford, but I think his style is more dangerous for Crawford because he has an extreme arsenal of, he could throw punches from all these different kind of angles, similar to Bud. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's very dangerous. Those are the three guys that I think are the most dangerous for Bud in these two weight divisions. Those three. Tszyu, no order, Tszyu, Charlo, and Boots. But don't sleep on Jamel, because I don't think he's gonna come back down to 154. But if he did, I'm not sleeping on Jamel Charlo in a Bud fight. You know what I mean? It was very easy to put my money up for Bud in that Spence fight. I'm not so sure with Jamel. I would pick Bud to win, but I'll be a little nervous going into that because I know Jamel changes everything with one punch. Same thing with Tim Tszyu. Same thing with Boots. You know what I mean? Boots is a puncher. I mean, he hasn't proven that he's a puncher at the elite level yet because you could be a puncher until you step up. It's like Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman at one point was one of the biggest punchers pound for pound until he started fighting the other best guys at 147. You know what I mean? But as far as Inoue, like I said earlier, I think he beats all of these guys, man. And I like Figueroa's style, just because the volume, you know what I mean? The volume, the angles, the switching, same thing you can say with Navarrete. Somebody said Navarrete earlier. I would pick Figueroa against Inoue over Navarrete simply because Navarrete is a slow starter. There's similarities in his styles, but they're different. Navarrete is a lot slower. I haven't seen Figueroa hurt at all. Not saying he can't get hurt, but Navarrete, I've seen him hurt. I've seen him drop. He's a slow starter. You know what I mean? And I think his punches are more unorthodox than Figueroa. But Figueroa is more volume. He's even higher volume than Navarrete to me. You know what I mean? And he's proven to be more durable up to this point. You know what I mean? What's up, Red? I like Figueroa at 126. Robesi Ramirez against Inoue would be a chess match that I just feel like Ramirez would lose. All right. But I still think that he would be the better opponent for Inoue, more so than the rest of the guys at 126 outside of Brandon Figueroa. I still have Inoue beating both, though. I think Brandon Figueroa hasn't been hurt all this time, but I think Inoue might be the first. And that's the problem with Figueroa. Figueroa is volume. You get hit by a guy that counters you and hits you as hard as that guy. You might not be rushing in like that no more. You know, the thing is, you was able to continue doing it against Inoue and all these guys like Neary. Like Neary's a puncher, right? Neary is a puncher, but he hasn't proven to be a punch on a level as Inoue. You know what I mean? I think it was debatable at one point in Inoue's earlier years at 118, but Inoue had he took off since then. You know what I mean? And this is way before like the Donaire fights and stuff like that. Inoue, you know, when you are a volume puncher like that and you like to like rush in, you get hit by a guy that hits as hard as him, you're not going to rush anymore. And then Brandon, if he's not high volume and aggressive, he doesn't stand a chance against most fighters. So that would be an issue for Inoue. And as far as Ramirez, again, good boxer, but he's limited compared to he's limited. I mean, I like the late. Listen, I love the way he counters. I love the way he changes levels. You know, his style is fun. He's fun to watch, but he's limited to compared to Inoue. I think that style, it just might not be enough. Like Ramirez has beaten some decent fighters, but Nova and Dogbe and those guys are not like they're Inoue's leagues above him. You know, I never thought Nova was all that great. I knew that as soon as he fought like a top dude, he would probably lose. You know what I mean? And Robesi, you know, destroyed him. But Robesi would be an interesting fight, you know. And I think if Inoue is to beat Palace, which I think he will, and then go and fight Ramirez in his first fight at 126 and beat Ramirez too, yo, this dude's resume is crazy. It would be it's crazy already, but it's already crazy, but it would be even crazier. You know, I mean, Ramirez ain't undefeated, but he's been on a run since his first, you know, fight because he only lost his first pro fight. I don't even know if any of these guys were really pushing on. I'm just thinking those would be my two top guys at 126 when the Inoue goes up to 126. I don't know if Castano is the same height as Canelo. I know Castano is short. Maybe Canelo is maybe like an inch taller. Maybe I'm guessing. Like Castano is really short. I know Canelo's short too, but I think Castano might be even shorter than him. Maybe about like an inch. Now, when we get to 130, I don't even think there's much talent at 130. You know, I think Oshaki Foster is probably the most skilled. You know, you got Hector Garcia, you got Oshaki Foster, you got Joe Cordina, you got Manuel Navarrete, and you got Oscar Valdez, who are fighting this weekend. I don't think any of them are more talented than Inoue, but at some point, when is the size going to be a factor? So I think it's too early to call. I don't think any of these guys are better, but at some point, size will be a factor. You know, I think 135 is too much. The Tank talk, I think, you know, and I know Tank is not even a big guy at 135, but I think that's too much for me. Now, I'm not saying it's not realistic because it could happen. You know, if the money is right, anything can happen. But I don't know. I like Oshaki Foster, skill-wise. Hector Garcia is very talented too. You know, you got Oscar Valdez, you got Manuel Navarrete. I just kind of want to see. I think it's too much of a jump so far. I want to see what he do at 126, and I think he's gonna pass the test at 126. But I still want to see it before I start having serious conversation about him fighting a 130 pounder. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's what I'm gonna keep it at. All right, man. I got to get out of here, guys. Man, it was good chatting with you guys. I was gonna open up the, let you guys join up and share your thoughts, but I knew I wasn't gonna be on too long, so I got to get on out of here, man. Y'all have a good day. I will be here Saturday covering both cards. So I will be here for Navarrete and Oscar Valdez. I'll be here for that fight, and I'll be here for the AJ fight as well. All right, so you guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe, smash the like on the way up, way out, hit the thumbs up, and I'll see you guys on the next one, man. It's good live. Peace.